When sinful perversion and wickedness took hold of the world the first time, God sent a flood to wipe the slate clean and start it again. However, our study so far has shown that within just a few generations of the flood waters receding, wickedness was already re-establishing itself in the world, with Babylon at its epicenter. It seems that as long as people are unified and left to their own devices, the result will always be a swift descent into degradation, the natural state of the unreformed human heart. God had already promised not to reset the world with a flood again, and even if he did, it would only be a few generations before he would need to do it again. C.S. Lewis put this well in Mere Christianity. What Satan put into the heads of our remote ancestors was the idea that they could be like gods, could set up on their own as if they had created themselves, be their own masters, invent some sort of happiness for themselves outside of God, apart from God. And out of that hopeless attempt has come nearly all that we call human history. Money, poverty, ambition, war, prostitution, empires, classes, slavery. The long terrible story of man trying to find something other than God which will make him happy. The reason why it can never succeed is this. God invented us as a man invents an engine. A car is made to run on gasoline, and it would not run on anything else. Now God designed the human machine to run on himself. He himself is the fuel our spirits were designed to burn, or the food our spirits were designed to feed on. There is no other. That is why it is just no good asking God to make us happy in our own way without bothering about religion. God cannot give us a happiness and a peace apart from himself, because it is not there. There is no such thing. That is the key to history. Terrific energy is expended, civilizations are built up, excellent institutions devised, but each time something goes wrong. Some fatal flaw always brings the selfish and cruel people to the top, and it all slides back into misery and ruin. In fact, the machine conks. It seems to start up all right and runs a few yards, and then it breaks down. They are trying to run it on the wrong juice. That is what Satan has done to us humans. To solve this problem, instead of wiping everything out and starting again every few generations, God had a far more subtle but long-lasting solution. So long-lasting that it is only now, in the 21st century, that mankind is getting close to reversing it. He said, "Come, let's go down and confuse the people with different languages, then they won't be able to understand each other." The key to confounding the building of the Tower of Babel and the satanic agenda that it represented was to confuse their language, thus inhibiting them from working together. It brought confusion and eventually caused them to scatter, leaving their plans unfinished. In that way, the Lord scattered them all over the world. Babel literally translates as confusion, and it is the word through which we get Babel in English. But as the people scattered, they carried with them the remnants of their mystery Babylon religion wherever they went. This religious system of muddled half-truths and inversions of the truth spread across the globe, and it formed the wellspring for all subsequent false religions and endless mythological systems. And this is where the story gets trickier to follow. As the people scattered outwards from Babylon and into the rest of the world, the single, easily identifiable mystery religion became different things in different places at different times. Marduk or Nimrod, Astarte or Semiramis and Tammuz had already been given multiple names to represent different parts of their character, and had then developed into distinct personalities as legends and myths cropped up around them. These distinct personalities were then assigned to various aspects of daily living. There was the god of war, the god of the sea, the god of fertility, and the sun god, etc. Indeed, a god or goddess for just about everything. So we already had perhaps hundreds of gods. But because everyone now spoke a different language and they had moved to different regions around the world, these gods and goddesses assumed different names depending on the location. In Greece, Astarte became known as Aphrodite or Athena. In Egypt, she became Isis. In Canaan, she became Ishtar. In Ephesus, she became Diana. In Israel, she became Ashtoreth. The Phrygians knew her as Cybele. In Phoenicia, she is known as Europa. In Rome, she was known as Ceres and Venus. As the goddess of Thelema, she is Nuit, Tanuit, or Anuit. In India, she became Kali. So the gods multiplied and hundreds became thousands. It's estimated that there are around 5,000 different names altogether for the goddess stemming from Semiramis alone. As I read those names, some of them will have rang a bell while others will be more obscure. Names like Aphrodite and Venus are still widely known, others like Demeter and Cybele are now mostly unheard of. Or on the male side you will have heard of Apollo, Mars, Achilles or Poseidon, but may perhaps be less familiar with Nebo or Nabul. The names that are still well known tend to be the Greek or Roman forms, mainly because they had such great empires and as a result their mythologies were most widely spread, written about and preserved. So well preserved that they are still household names. There are shaving products named after Venus. We had a NASA rocket ship called Apollo. We've had movies like Troy starring Brad Pitt as Achilles, in which some of these muddled half-truth stories and legends of heroes are depicted. The name Europa has even become the name of a whole continent, but they all go back to just 3 people from Babylon: Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. You can see the common threads if you look for them. You will see recurring titles such as Queen of Heaven, the Great Mother, Mother Goddess, or even Mother Nature. You will see how it is just one woman under different names, and that she has existed in all cultures and civilizations throughout history. You'll also see how all those ancient mythologies contained family relationships and feuds, very often culminating in murder and incest. You'll see the recurring theme of mother and child cults that began with Semiramis and Tammuz. You'll see these threads uniting even major religions of today like Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Catholicism. You'll discover in fact that all false religions sprang from the Mystery Babylon religion, and that is why they have these commonalities. Keeping track of all the routes the Babylonian religious system took, however, is impossible and also unnecessary. We don't need to do an in-depth analysis of how the mysteries became Hinduism in India or Buddhism in the Far East, for example. We only need to focus on a few threads, namely how the mystery spread from the Middle East into Europe. The key point at this stage, however, is to understand that all mythological systems and false religion and gods and goddesses can be traced back to just 3 people in Babylon, and behind their mystery religion is Satan himself.